Thank you very much, House Chairperson. I move that this House must note that Advocate Thuli Mandosela finished a 7-year term of office of the Public Protector of South Africa on the 14th of October 2016. Further note that during her tenure as Public Protector, the Office of the Public Protector received heightened attention and high approval by members of the public in South Africa. That the heightened attention and high approval was due to the reality that her office treated all matters brought to her attention without fear or favor, and that the reports of the Public Protector were mostly endorsed by the courts and set lucid judicial jurisprudence that assisted in clarifying the powers of the Public Protector. Recognizes that Advocate Mandosela has received many domestic and international honors for the role she played as Public Protector in South Africa, which include 3 honorary doctorates. Acknowledges that Rule 62(2) of the National Assembly rules empowers the National Assembly by a resolution to invite any person to address the House. That must resolve in terms of Rule 62(2) that this National Assembly must invite Advocate Thuli Mandosela to address the National Assembly on the date to be agreed upon by the Program Committee, but before the end of the annual session of 2016. That the address must specifically focus on Advocate Thuli Mandosela's experiences during her tenure as Public Protector and lessons that should be applied to all public representatives, public servants, and the public in the provision of quality services for all. I so move, House Chairperson.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections? Yes, Honourable Member.
We are objecting and indeed would like to make our own declaration on the matter.
Are there any other parties wishing to make declarations? ANC?
Thank you, House Chair. Let us begin by joining those who have acknowledged the contribution that Advocate Thuli Mandosela has made to our people in, amongst others, the fight against corruption and maladministration. Evidence of Advocate Thuli Mandosela's work is there for all South Africans to see. Indeed, it cannot be gainsaid that her dedication to her work has drawn heightened attention to the Office of the Public Protector. However, honorable members, we are not here today to debate the highlights and lowlights of Advocate Mandosela's legacy. The question before us today is a procedural one: whether this august House should invoke Rule 62(2) to invite the good advocate to address the House. As well quoted in the motion, the ruling point empowers the NA to invite anyone to address it. It should be noted that there are no guidelines on the criteria to invite persons to address the House. In this regard, we would like to propose that the Rules Committee should provide guidelines. Honourable members will recall that according to Rule 2 of this rule book, the 8th source of authority of the NA is, open quotes, any conventions or practices that have been established in the NA by agreement and usage over a period of time, close quote. Rule 9.1 of this rule book further provides that conventions and practices may be varied by agreement amongst the parties and reviewed from time to time as decided by the Rules Committee. Honorable House Chair, let us suggest to the House that the silence of Rule 62.2 is broken by Rule 2. In other words, this House should be guided by its conventions in deciding who to invite to address it. Going through the records of the NA reveals that amongst invitees to address the House have been Mr. Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General, Mr. Yasser Arafat, former President of the Republic of Palestine, former President Nelson Mandela, former President F.W. de Klerk, Justice Pius Langa, former Chief Justice, and Justice S. Ngobo, former Chief Justice. It seems to me, indeed, also the House, that the House has in the past invited people by virtue of the offices that they had previously held. In other words, invitees have hitherto been former heads of state, former heads of institutions of global governance, and former heads of the judicial arm of state. In this regard, former heads of Chapter 9 institutions have never been invited to address the House. If the House was to invite one to address it in 2016, it will be the first time it happens, and thus a variance in convention, which, like any other, would have to comply with Rule 9.1. However, honorable members, the draft resolution before us does not seek to persuade the House to invite Advocate Mandosela in her capacity as a former head of a Chapter 9 institution, but to invite her in recognition of her contribution as an individual who happened to be a head of Chapter 9 institution. In other words, we are being persuaded to vary the convention and practices of the NA to provide for inviting any person who performs his or her duties remarkably. The question is, where do we draw the line? Shall this House invite outstanding judges, premiers, mayors, sports persons? The list is endless. But there is no convention by agreement or usage to recognize the contribution of retiring heads of Chapter 9 institutions. In fact, there is such a convention. The NA has since establishment of the office on Chapter 9 institutions in the office of the Speaker been holding farewell functions in honor of retiring heads of Chapter 9 institutions. Indeed, these platforms have been used to afford former heads of Chapter 9 institutions to address members of the Assembly on any issue of their choice. We have suggested to the sponsors of the resolution that this avenue is available for Advocate Mandosela to address members of the Assembly. They seemed amenable to our suggestion at the time. House Chair, when all is said and done, the question is whether to vary or not to vary the NA convention and practices. In this regard, we stand unpersuaded that there is a necessity to vary convention. In our view, there are no compelling circumstances to invite a former head of Chapter 9 institutions to address the House when there is an avenue that can be used to achieve the same results. We do not see anything fundamentally flawed with only inviting former heads of arm of state and former heads of structures of global governments to address the House. We again make the proposal that Rule 9.1 be invoked for the Rules Committee to consider extending invitations to other individuals who have made notable contributions to society. Until then, we believe that the farewell function in honor of Advocate Thuli Mandosela, organized by the Office of the Speaker, is sufficient recognition of her remarkable contribution to our people. The ANC opposes the draft resolution. Thank you.
Honorable Shivambu.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. You know, I must say I'm very disappointed with the Chief Whip of the majority party, because when he came into office new, and with his utterances of 2 weeks ago, he seemed to be a bit different in terms of how he's going to handle the caucus of the ruling party here in Parliament. And some of the things are just basic, Chief Whip. The resolution that you have had for a very long time, says that we are inviting the former public protector to address specifically to focus on her experiences during her tenure as a public protector. And then you come here to argue that we say that we're inviting her on a personal capacity. We are saying that she must come and speak about her experiences as a public protector, because she must share experiences of how do we as public representatives avoid undue delays, undue benefits, and the corrupt practices that happen in all levels of the state. What is wrong with just listening to a person who has gained experience? I mean, what kind of a political party is that which refuses proudly to listen to a person who has gained experiences on a specific field, which will be very invaluable in terms of how we take our governance issues forward? So I think those are some of the basic things. And also, don't be arrested that it never happened before, therefore it cannot happen moving forward. When Judge Pius Langa addressed the National Assembly, that had not happened before. Why can't we do that with the head of a Chapter 9 institution to say that we're doing it for the first time as the 5th democratic parliament? What is wrong with doing that? Let's be sensible and invite Advocate Thuli Mandosela to come and address the House. If we disagree with her, we'll tell her that we disagree with her. If we can take lessons, we'll say that we have taken lessons from what she has got to learn as a public protector of South Africa. If Busisi Wamkwebana does better as a PP, when she finishes a term of office, by that time the EFF will be government. We're going to invite